Susan?
Here.
Veronica?
Present.
Justin?
Here.
Ron?
Here.
Ian?
Here.
David?
Present.
All members present and accounted for. First item on the agenda is item B, approval of tonight's agenda. Anybody have any comments, questions, or requested changes to the agenda? Hearing none, I'd ask for a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of tonight's agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the August 21st, 2019 meeting of the Landmarks Commission. The minutes are in your packet. Does anybody have any comments or corrections on the meeting minutes for August 21st? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion.
Second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of the August 21st minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Item D, regular business. D1, certificate of appropriateness 19-11, consideration with possible action on a design review for a roof redesign located at 1014 South Jackson Street. Jason, you want to give the staff information on this?
Awesome map. I think it's highlighted in red there, 1014 South Jackson. I went and took a few pictures recently, bearing in mind that I stand 6'4", 6'5". My eyes are a little bit shorter than that, but this is me standing on the sidewalk adjacent to that property. And I want to call your attention to the fact that you can't see the hipped roof, you can see the parapet. Standing in the middle of the streets, not much traffic, I see the hint of a parapet roof, a hipped roof behind the parapet. Standing on the opposite sidewalk, a little more of the roof, still mostly hidden by the parapet. We have some construction drawings. These show the as-is condition. The parapet roof here looks kind of big, but these are projection views, draftsman views. What it will look like with the parapet roof removed, and an isometric view of what's proposed. In short, it's to remove the parapet portion of the roof, to remove the hipped roof portion, and to remove the parapet on the back side of the house and substitute the works with a one-directional sloping roof and some gutter system. I was explaining earlier, as a realistic person, I would give this a thumbs up, but I want to warn you that the state may take a much more dim view of it. It's not in line with the letter of the Secretary of the Interior standards, but my opinion is such that the parapet by design was intended to create an appearance of not having the hip roof, and that we're maintaining the parapet here. I like that. If, however, the homeowner applies for tax credits, the state may send a nasty letter back saying you shouldn't be doing this, but I punt to you, that's my opinion. So I can't give you a recommendation for approval because it does not lie directly in line with the Secretary of the Interior standards. I think, as a real thinking person, that it's still a good idea because it addresses the issue of a leaking roof, and it doesn't really negatively impact the historic character of the house unless you're looking for that hipped roof. I would not normally look for that hipped roof.
Do you have anything that shows that that originally was a hip roof?
Oh, that's a fun question.
Yeah, I mean the garage itself has a flat roof on it. I mean that hip roof could have been, for all I know, that hip roof could have been added at some point in time. Somebody thought it was a better idea.
I think it was original, and I don't know if that's because I saw a hint of that on a Sanborn map or a historic aerial photo, or what. I do note that it was there when it became a historic district in 1979, 1980, and was noted at that time. In that sense, even if it was an add-on, it was considered a historic add-on, but no, I've never pulled original architectural drawings of this building.
Is it too soon for me to make a motion, or does there? I mean, I would like to make a motion to approve this project. They've come a long way from the original design, and basically they're trying to save the roof and the house from leaking. And after a rain, if you walk by and look at their walls are actually saturated from the inside. So I mean, I think that we should really approve this project and let them go forward with this.
So I think I heard Ron make a motion. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll
So-
second.
Was the motion for the complete package? Were there other items besides the roof on this
No
one?
other items.
Everything is,
I mean, perhaps some coping on top of the parapet and the gutters on the back, but that's...
No windows or no additions.
the coping that's going over the top of the parapet is a metal coping. And what is, I can't say that I saw in the details specifically, like how much of a coping that's gonna be, because that's gonna look quite different.
Top of the parapet wall
Mhm.
is going to continue to be the limestone that it is.
So there's a, it's not going over the top of the limestone, it's going underneath that top slate, at the
Right.
top.
Yeah, it's gonna be inside, yeah.
Okay. Then we're good. I was fearful it was gonna be sitting over the top of that wall and create a very dark band around the top.
Nope.
And I don't think, one, you want that, and two, it would look appropriate, so the rendering of the, in isometric, because you highlighted specifically the roof,
Oh,
made
yeah.
it look a little bit more
Yeah, there's nothing on top there.
intensive, I guess, than it will be, so that was my only question that I had.
Mhm.
I've got a question. It's not really a historical issue as much as it's a constructability thing. It shows the existing parapet being removed on that back wall.
Mhm.
But I think what you're gonna really wanna do is you're gonna wanna, when you rebuild it, you're gonna want the side wall parapets to go all the way to the end. You understand what I'm getting at?
Mhm.
Because it leaves a funny condition if you stop that parapet short.
Right,
And I think you want those sidewall parapets to go all the way to the back of the house,
yeah.
and then have the mason wrap the masonry around that full
Yeah.
parapet,
Mhm.
so when the roofer comes back in, he's got something to terminate to.
Yep.
I would agree.
The way it's drawn right now, it shows a funny condition that, where you could have water get to the edge of that parapet and then shoot out
Right.
the side before
Yeah,
it
we
gets
don't
to the,
want
yeah, so,
Mhm.
just a suggestion to think about as you're constructing it.
Yeah, I
Yes,
think that's a
thank
good
you.
suggestion.
So we had a motion, I didn't hear a second.
Justin seconded.
Okay, so we're voting. Unless there's any more discussion.
It is unanimously approved.
Thank you for your
Okay.
reconsideration of that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you very
I
much.
think it's a much better solution.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
Item number D2 on the agenda is Certificate of Appropriateness 19-31. Consideration with possible action on the design review for siding, soffit, and window replacement at 1008 South Webster Avenue. Jason?
Awesome map showing the location of 1008 South Webster. Just as an aside, before I get too far into this, I believe the request was addressing both the house and a detached garage. Please bear in mind, as I forget to bring it up again, that the detached garage is not historic per se, so I don't have strong advice on the garage. But to refresh your memory, we did speak about this at the special meeting in August. First picture of the house. I've got a few slides that show some additional information that we've received. Top left, the proposed windows. It's an Jason DH all welded windows. The siding from CertainTeed. The soffits also requested to be replaced. Draw your attention to the last bullet point on that. Reason to be in line with the updated look of the home. That's a but I didn't know if this was helpful to anybody, but I put in the Windows spec sheet. It's not particularly helpful to me, but here it is in case it comes up in conversation. We did receive a letter from the Wisconsin State Historic Preservation Office Senior Architect. You've received a copy. This is an excerpt of that, saying that SHPO, State Historic Preservation Office, never approves of vinyl windows or siding on a historic property. They go on to say that if you set a precedent of allowing vinyl in windows in the district, there may/will come a point in time where the district can be considered for delisting due to loss of integrity. I've said that to you. I just thought in case you don't believe me. There you go. That's an email dated August 27, 2019. You've got the complete email in hard copy in front of you. They say other interesting things in there. We have received from the applicant project description costs, nearly $35,000 in new siding soffits. That's the house plus the garage, plus almost $14,000 in 30 new windows for a total of $48,000 some odd dollars. Here in our office, we do have paint quotes for comparable houses. 708 South Quincy, CertaPro paint quote of $10,000. It's a similar size house, although it does have a large stone feature at the front, which would not be painted. 806 South Quincy, recently painting just on the front and part of the side for $4,000. So I would suspect, without having reached out for a quote, that the house could be painted for $20,000, and that portions of the wood could be replaced probably for $10,000. And I would estimate repairing the windows at $500 per window, although we haven't received any pictures of any of the windows with details, which would be a potential cost of $45,000. And then that tax credit for all of this qualifying work would bring that down to less than $34,000. Now I note with that tax credit in play, if you do qualifying rehabilitation work, you could have upwards of a $65,000 project, get that 25% tax credit, and have a dollar for dollar cost with what's being proposed in replacing all the siding with vinyl and all the windows with new vinyl windows. So I note that the ordinance does not give consideration to economic factors, but as a realistic person, I think that's very important, especially when somebody comes and says, hey, my slate roof is no good. It'll cost me $100 grand for a slate roof or 20 grand for an asphalt shingle roof. Clearly, economic considerations are important, so I just want to point out that it would appear that the work could be done compliant with the state's requirements and the Secretary of the Interior standards for a comparable, if not less, amount of money. Revisiting the photographs, here we see the rear of the building. It's not original addition to the rear of the house. And I think we had pointed out that the foundation of this addition is probably the culprit for rising moisture, which is leading to the paint failure on this rear addition to the house. Top right is the garage. I'm not too worried about. Bottom left, again, is that foundation on the addition at the rear of the house. The condition of that suggests that moisture is rising up through that, getting into the wall, and then as that moisture attempts to escape, it's pushing the paint off with it. Top left shows where probably the cut ends of the siding are butting up too close to the roof, and it's wicking in moisture off the roof. A lot of that, I would suggest, probably needs to be replaced or trimmed and replaced. Bottom right shows dirt. I'm not particularly concerned, but here we see soffits. Again, I think this is on the rear addition. I draw your attention to the gutters because they keep grabbing my attention. And I note that the gutters were added after the last time the roof was redone. It could have been quite a while ago, but my hunch looking at these and the next set of photos is that we're seeing damage caused by ice dams in the winter. The ice freezes, the moisture wicks into the roof, and it's coming out the soffits. And here in particular, if you look at the far right, you see the top few boards look pretty good. Then you get to that gutter in the center of the frame, and you can see the shadow on the paint where that ice dam forms. And that moisture gets in the wall and kind of trickles down the inside of those boards, and that's why we're missing a board, and we see the accelerated paint failure below this. The photo in the center is showing a detail of that, and the photo at left shows the missing board and, fairly shiny gutters. Now, this typically is a problem of those ice dams, which might be related to insufficient insulation or just particularly harsh winter. I bring this to your attention because I don't know that replacing the siding with whatever material we're replacing it with is going to solve the problem of moisture getting in behind the clapboard or the vinyl. And I see other issues at play here. Staff still recommends denial of the COA, noting that all the work is incompatible with Secretary of the Interior standards. I also note that per Mark Beekle, the senior architect. He says that the house may well be considered non-contributing after that point, and that the house may not have access to tax credits at any point in the future, and that it's a ding on the integrity of the district. So, that's all I've got.
Discussion?
I'd like to say that a lot of the damage is not from the roof itself. The addition on the back, they used the completely wrong wood. It does not hold the paint. Within 2 years, it has to be repainted. The section that you're talking about in the corner, the wall inside the house has mushrooms growing on it and mold. Because there's actual holes and the bottom half has been repaired just so I could get through another winter with it. And the boards are all loose. There's not a single board on that wall that can be saved. And the boards on most of the walls on the other side have to be all replaced as well. There's a lot of boards that have to be replaced, and that's when my budget cannot hold it. And one of the biggest concerns you guys had last time was that in the front that I would keep the V shape of the corners of the entryway, which Ken and I worked out. He said vinyl would not work there. So what we were going to do is enhance the entryway and keep that part wood, because that part is good wood. There's no boards to be replaced there. And we would do it a slight different shade or accent to bring out the front of the house where the door is. That's how we were going to deal with your concern with those corners. All the other corners on the house are squared. And the roof and gutters are very new, so they're not, they're in good shape.
You know, I would add that rear addition, where perhaps the wood was not well selected, given that it's a non-historic addition, people take a much more lenient approach to what sort of siding goes on that addition. I'll leave it at that.
But I don't want to have back siding be different than the rest of the house. I do have pride with the house, and I don't want it to be patched together.
Well, if the wood is as bad as you say it would need to be replaced in order to put vinyl on.
No, they go right over it. He said they can wrap it, they put a first layer on, and then they wrap it and seal it. The only wall they'll have to completely redo is the one that has the interior damage done. That one. That one we have to completely redo. The inside wall. And then once they open up the wall, they can see what other damage is done inside. That's a real, you know, he gave me an estimate of what that wall will cost, but he said that's just the starting point. Once you open it up, he says we don't know what we'll find.
But that's also true of rot. I mean, that other rot that we're looking at all over the place. I mean, to just say, I'm gonna wrap it, then you're living in a house full of rot and mold. I mean, that doesn't seem like a solution either. You know, if you're inside that house, it's gonna be mighty moldy, especially in the spring and
He'll take off
fall.
what needs to be taken off.
Which is exactly what I'm saying. It's like, and I've done this.
Right.
It's like once you start, you don't know how deep that's going to go. It's
Right.
usually what you see on the surface is a very small
I know.
part of the rot that's actually
That's
there.
what he said.
You know, and so it's a tricky proposition. I don't see how you can just say, "Oh, we're going to do this and wrap it in vinyl." He'd almost have to clapboard it again before he could do vinyl. I mean, just from my own personal opinion. I mean, my own know-how of what I've done. I just throw that out there.
Any other discussion?
You haven't presented any other costs other than the vinyl
I did
as
the
proposed.
windows. And then the, soffits.
So I was thinking about the Hardy board, that commercial name for a cement board, how that compares cost.
Well,
That
that's
would be-
addressed by the letter also.
The state's architect
Yeah,
finds
I see
himself in a
that.
position of having to walk the very narrow path of the Secretary of the Interior standards.
Absolutely.
yeah.
Right. The comparable maintenance costs that you have there are your numbers that you generated, Jason.
So the paint is based on the quotes that
Sure.
we've received through our revolving.
But it
loan
wasn't
fund.
provided by the homeowner.
No. I've got personal experience with purchasing and installing vertical grain clapboard cedar siding. So, again, I haven't walked around the house, I don't go sneaking on people's properties, but I'm just guessing $10,000 to replace sections of wood. And again, throw another 20 grand on top of that, you're still not hitting
Right.
the break even where vinyl was less expensive. And then window repair, again, that's an estimate. I haven't seen any details of the windows in their current state to say how far gone they are or are not. But at $500 per window, I think you'd have people lining up wanting to take on that work. So that's just an estimate. I could be wrong, but we haven't received any cost data elsewhere.
Right.
so.
I guess that was my point.
I think that the cost estimate scenarios that you've put up there are very valuable and definitely worth consideration, but at the end of the day, the cost isn't what we're talking about. We've got a contributing house to the district that's in original state that can be repaired. And if we go down the path now of approving vinyl siding for such a prominent residence within a district, I think that's a slippery slope that this commission can't entertain. We rejected aluminum soffit material previously this summer for a different residence, and so I don't know why we would reverse ourselves and approve it on this residence. So all that being said, I would just make a motion to deny the application.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion?
Yes vote would be to deny.
Oh.
Yes. Would you like me to change yours, Ron?
Yeah.
Stephanie, mine as well.
Okay. Sorry, that can be confusing. Read out the notice of denied.
Okay, next item on the agenda is item D3, Certificate of Appropriateness 19-32. Consideration with possible action on a design review for roof and wall work located at 218 North Adams Street.
On the left, you see the lovely map. On the right, we're zooming in a little bit on the rear portion of the roof. It's the Republic Chop House. Here's a photo that the owner has provided. In particular, the request for certificate of appropriateness involves a new roof, which I give a thumbs up to. Replacing some section of damaged brick at the top, which I would also give a thumbs up to, although I don't have data on what brick is replacing it. The trouble is in the weeds here of the COA application. It calls for the pressure washing of the brick wall and painting it with a impermeable elastomeric paint. And that's where we run into trouble because the state has a statute 101.1215 that expressly forbids high pressure washing of walls, brick masonry on historic buildings. And I've gone back and forth again with Mark Beekle quite a bit, and best preservation practice states that a non-permeable paint on historic masonry will accelerate the deterioration and ultimate destruction of that masonry. That it traps the moisture inside, and as moisture sits in the brick through the freeze-thaw cycle, it will begin to kick off the face of the brick, it'll spall. And we can see that already on the Confetti's Theater building in the alleyway. If you look next to the parking garage, you look at a painted brick wall, and you see a lot of the paint is, almost looks like it's peeling, but it has a sandy backside to it. That's the brick. So that's moisture escaping the building, and escaping it the only way it can is blasting through the paint. The best practice here to paint something is to apply a, what do they call it, the lime wash paint. It's permeable. And as presented, the idea of pressure washing it and then painting it with an impermeable paint as winter approaches seems like a very bad idea. Mark Beekle's very clear that the moisture gets trapped in the brick for several months before it can have an adequate chance to dry out. Well, the high pressure washing is illegal. Furthermore, the application of a paint, it ought to not be this elastomeric stuff. So that's the only hesitation that staff can provide. As far as the roof is concerned, that's fine. As far as the replacement of brick is concerned, that's probably fine. I haven't seen what brick's coming in, but so be it, it's going to be painted. It's the question of how to prepare this surface for paint and what sort of paint will be applied.
Discussion? That's one question. Patrick?
Do you want to open the floor?
I mean,
Yeah, I read the recommendation that Jason wrote up. I don't have any problem with his recommendation. How he stated it is the replacement of the motors to be traditional line motors, which is fine. Not using pressure washing is simply fine. We'll do it a different way. I did read through the attachments that were there, talking about how to do that. Basically, it's a little bit of hand scraping and using basically a hose to clean off what needs to be cleaned off. Again, I didn't have any problem with what was recommended in that regard. As far as the brick, it's a bit unknown how much brick actually has to be replaced. The concern that we had was once they start to dig in along the trim, if any of that brick crumbles out, it clearly has to be replaced with something. Right. So there isn't a lot of direction on what that brick actually should be, but because of the age of the building, I would think that we would focus more on its size and shape, right, to be the same. And then since the intent is to paint over it with a vapor permeable paint, which is also fine, we would do that. And then I guess what the brick is itself is a little bit less of a concern at that point. The vapor permeable paint will allow it to weep out, I guess, for lack of a better term. So honestly, I'm looking at everything that was recommended and suggested. I really don't see any issue with it at all.
The only other thing I would add, Patrick, is in addition to the size of the brick, would be any texture on the brick. So if it's a flat brick, let's put a flat brick back, not a velour face brick, sure. Or stippled brick or sand rubbed. So the brick should be of a similar texture as well, because they come in multiple textures.
The brick is, the pictures that I took today, it's a little bit difficult to see exactly what it is, but I would agree with you. I know what you're saying. It just doesn't need to be something completely foreign to what the building is.
If you challenge your masonry contractor, and if they know what they're doing with historical stuff, a good mason should be able to look at the brick, you can tell what it is, and there are stockpiles of old brick that quite frankly would, if they know where to find those, they're replacing it with a similar material, as opposed to buying something that's new, and that might not be a material that's going to expand and contract at the same rate as that historic stuff that's there.
Like I said, it's a little bit tough to tell how much is actually going to be having to be replaced until you get right up to it. close.
I think the other thing is that when you do the roof and the flashing that goes along that top edge,
Yep.
that trim, just make sure that it has a kick-off.
Yep.
So that any water that's sitting on the top gets diverted away from the face of the building.
Correct.
That'll make that half-inch lip will make a tremendous difference.
Yep.
So it doesn't want to wick back in and then capillary down the...
Yep. I follow you.
Yep. I'd make a motion on this one. Make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Are you asking them to change?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, discussion?
But no
Yeah, go ahead.
power, but no power washing?
Right.
Yeah, with the contingencies, correct?
Yes.
With all
So,
contingencies?
No pressure washing, paint with the permeable type paint, and brick of similar texture and size.
Yep.
Yes,
So it's
correct.
really just following the recommendation as
Exactly.
stated on the
Right.
agenda.
Correct.
The only question I did have is that am I correct in the assumption that there is not a guideline on the color of the paint that goes over?
Whatever you'd like.
Pink and purple's.
Within reason, Patrick, 'cause I can see it from my office.
I get
By code, it could be whatever you would like. By Ian, I'm not sure.
Fair enough, okay.
So we had a motion, we had a second. Is there any other discussion? Let's see the voting.
That was unanimously approved.
So when the general contractor will submit for we do have to pull a permit.
For roofing, I would imagine.
Yeah,
Possible,
we
yeah.
will have to pull a permit of some type, even if it's general in nature. Part of that process will then request that the work has been approved via here, correct?
Yep.
The pulling of the permit, can that commence tomorrow?
Mhm.
Okay, all right, perfect, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is item D4, Certificate of Appropriateness 19-33. Consideration with possible action on a design review for a window replacement at 504. Okay, here we go. Let's fight about this. Porlier? Is there any other 504 Porlier? Jason?
Here it is on the map. The owners submitted what they called a photograph from 1927. This is a copy of that. And the windows in question are up in the forward-facing dormer, if you will, those three pairs of windows with the survey says markers all up and down in there. Here's the photo from the National Register district nomination. You can see in the center pair, the bottom bits have changed. So before, after. And here, the owner has supplied some photos. The photo on the right is the center grouping. You'll see it's not a big X in the window, but it's just one slash. And you'll see the router marks around the window frame suggest much more recent construction. We also have one photo of the interior of those flanking pairs. I guess if you're on the inside, this would be the left one. If you're on the outside, it's the right one. These may be original, I don't know. They're older. The request for COA involves replacing all 6 of the lot with some Pella Architect Series windows that will very closely match the originals. In the case of the center pair of windows, which are not historic anyway, this is certainly a good idea. When looking at the flanking pairs of windows, by the letter of the Secretary of the Interior Standards, perhaps it's not such a good idea, but you know, this is where I kind of whisper if I was doing it, I'd want to replace them too. Take that for what it's worth.
I just also add that to remove the windows on either side, they're in very bad condition. So being able to even maintain some of the integrity even of the lattice work in them may be a challenge. So there's concern that in getting those 2 windows out, that we could lose glass, some of the work. The windows are in pretty rough shape.
Could you elaborate on what you mean by rough shape? What exactly is?
Well, I think that if you look, some of the wood looks like it's a little compromised, and then, trying to blank on what holds the glass in.
The glazing.
Glazing is peeling very bad. So if there's some flex to get that window free, because there's many layers of paint on it, that the windows and the lattice could just kind of let go.
You know, to interject, if in the process of taking them out they accidentally became broken beyond repair, they would clearly need to be replaced. In order to maintain the windows properly, they do need to be removed. My recommendation is that if you do grant approval of the COA in its entirety, that if the windows come out in one piece, I'd recommend they be put in the basement for somebody else someday to look and say, hey, it's the original windows, how cool is that? But yes, it would be a real pity if they became broken. Then by the Secretary of the Interior standards, you're forced to replace it. So. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Sorry.
I would make a motion to approve it in its entirety. Personally.
Second.
Any other discussion? Call for a vote.
Unanimously approved.
Thank you.
Next item is item D5, Certificate of Appropriateness 19-34, consideration with possible action on a design review for a new awning sign located at 228 North Adams Street.
Here's a picture. It's the former Liberty Cafe just across the street from Hotel Northland. The top two photos are cartoons showing what's proposed. The bottom right is a Google Street View. The recommendation is to approve. I note that the sign installer says that they'll attach it to the mortar joints. I also note that there's no mortar joints in way of where they're attaching it, so somebody may be assuming that this is a straightforward matter when maybe it's going to throw them a curveball. Regardless, recommendation is to approve. They'll figure out a way to attach it.
Question for you.
Yes.
So this property came up, was it last month or the month before?
Month
Oh,
before.
for the doors? Yes.
Yeah. So that's just my question is it just the property owner that we're dealing with this on multiple months, that they didn't have their design for their awning done, or just curious?
Yes, from what I understand is they didn't have the design of the awning selected yet when they were doing the door replacement. I'm not even sure they had a contract signed at that point, but
Okay.
I know they were working through some of the window signage as well with other people in my department.
Okay.
Door replacement was by owner, awning is by tenant.
Tenant? Okay. Oh, I see. It's Ian's fault.
That's right. I should be abstaining.
You might be able to help guide them where to anchor the awning, so.
I'll be down there, I'm sure.
I would make a motion to approve this request.
Second that.
Any other discussion? Call to a vote.
It was approved with one abstention.
Okay, next item is item D6, Certificate of Appropriateness 19-35, consideration with possible action on a design review for a replacement window and a deck replacement at 840 South Quincy Street.
Here's the map. It is not the corner property, but one further to the northeast. So the front, sorry, yep, right there. The front view is at the top left. The property owner has supplied the rear view, which I ordinarily wouldn't notice because I can't see it from a public right-of-way. That's in the photo at bottom left. Note the deck. In center bottom is the proposed new deck, which is larger in that it goes past the, you want to call it a bay, but past the oriel window in the center. And bottom right shows a footprint of the proposed deck. LC staff recommends approval. None of this is visible from the public right away. There you
Motion so made.
Second.
Any discussion? We are voting again.
Unanimously approved.
All right.
Thank you.
We are on to item E on the agenda. E1, staff level certificate of appropriateness applications.
We had one. This was a stop work order. We see you doing something. New roof at 918. Is it Emily?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. They're getting a new roof. The real heartbreaker there is that it's a $20,000 roof. It would have been eligible for tax credits, but the work had started before anybody thought to check into it. So that's it.
I think there were more than that.
Really? Damn.
Pretty sure.
I dropped the ball.
Well, I probably should have put them in the PowerPoint before I gave it to you. Let me look.
Yeah, there was a list.
Was there? Oh, then I screwed
Does
up.
anyone know where that started?
It's the last page of the packet,
26?
25.
That was a driveway on 1120 South Quincy Street. We did the mural, the dream mural on 129 Broadway. We did.
Oh yeah, we
This
talked about
must be the
that
next
last time.
ones. 838 South Jackson got a porch.
Yeah, that was last
Yeah, we
time.
did that.
And the fence we did last time
Oh.
too.
Okay, no.
I'm just bad at my job. Who knew?
Well, these were in the special meeting, I think, or
Oh,
one
yeah.
or more was, so
That's
that kind of.
That was kind of confusing.
E2, raise and repair orders.
We have none this month.
Great. Staff update.
I think last time we met that I told you we were meeting with another person to do another revolving loan that was signed and it's going to be recorded next week. So we secured our 2 revolving loans this month and I just got another application for another one, though I'm not sure that they'll follow through on it. It's a much larger project than $10,000, so I don't know if they'll actually do it. And I think that's all that I have.
I need to write a letter to the State Historic Preservation Office. It's a letter of intent saying that the city of Green Bay would like to apply for the grant money, the CLG grant money, to begin work on a new intensive survey through the city. I don't know if at the end of that rainbow it means an update to the old one plus new areas, or if it'll focus on new areas, but it's a big project and we'll get the ball rolling yet this month.
I certainly think it should be updated. It should not just added to.
No, it's an important
It's
tool,
significantly out of date.
and that tool can help drive investment and redevelopment.
It's old as I am.
88.
31.
Yeah, it's old.
It is old.
See, a lot of those, there's a number of buildings in there that no longer exist.
No longer exist, and I think there are some residential neighborhoods that are probably now eligible. And to bring tax credits to homeowners is a good thing, even if homeowners maybe don't like it. I think that's all I've got, unless we were talking about anything else.
Okay. Last thing is date of next meeting, which I don't think is correct on here anymore.
Or is on there now?
Is it because I was just looking at my calendar, the 14th, which would be our usual meeting, is Columbus Day, so City Hall closed that day?
That's so funny. No, of course we're not. We're very open. I'm going to be in Montana on the 14th, so I'd sent you guys an email asking if the 7th would work, if we need to have a meeting. I heard back from David that he would not be able to attend.
Correct.
And Susan and Ron said they would be able to. So if I can just secure that there will be a quorum on the 7th, that's when we'll have it. If we have no applications, we won't have a meeting at all.
I can attend.
Yep.
Okay, so
I
yeah,
was gonna
because-
ask you to move it anyways, because the
Oh.
14th is the Monday night Packer game.
Oh.
And I care so deeply about that. No, I won't be in town, so we're planning for the 7th. We have the room secured and everything, but I haven't gotten any applications for next meeting yet. That doesn't mean we won't get any, so.
Sure.
All right, very good.
Do we need a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Okay, so made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Just for informational purposes, what is